Brandt DXT grain carts have efficient unload speeds, large carrying capacities, unmatched durability, and reliable components that make sure your cart is working when you are. Lead the field with DXT grain carts from Brandt. Visit your local Brandt dealer for more information.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 at Sirius XM. Do we have a lot to talk about here today? Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Also, of course, as always, a big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. Whew, today is loaded. Looking forward to it. We're going to be joined by the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Minister Heath MacDonald, will be with us here today. He's the Federal Ag Minister. We're going to talk about last week's virtual FPT meeting, the in-person meeting that's coming up here in the fall. Could we see these changes for 25 roll into 26? And what about some of the additional changes that are being suggested for 2026 when it comes to agri-stability? We're also going to talk to Tracy Gardner about AgSmart that's happening in Olds next week. We've got a great friend of the program, Jim Wiesemeyer, DC policy analyst. We got to talk about this U.S. Japan trade agreement. What does it mean for U.S. rice exports? And even more so, is there a trend? Is there a tell here? If you look at some of the trade deals the U.S. has been signing, what does that mean for the future of the trading relationship between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S.? We're also going to talk to Remi Schmaltz. He is an entrepreneur. He's got a new startup. We've talked to him before on the show, and I want to get a bit of an update on what's going on at Brilliant Harvest, which is an AI tool for ag dealers across the world, really. And he's in this. His head is fully in this AI space. Want a bit of an update on how AI is being used in the industry and get some of Remi's perspectives because he lives there every day. And a bonus today for those of you that are listening to the RealAg Radio podcast, we're also going to hear from Chris Perry, who is a potato grower from Southern Alberta. And he is one of the key features of a new Lay's potato chip campaign, talking to really long-time growers people and farmers in the business relationship with Lay's and being a part of the supply chain. Looking forward to chatting with Chris. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Oh, man. I felt like I was getting greedy last night. A little bit. Just a little bit greedy. I was listening to the Blue Jays-Yankees game on the radio. Of course, the Blue Jays had won 5 games in a row versus the Yankees. They came up short last night. And so it was like, oh, man, I can't believe we lost. And it's sort of like we're like one game or a half game out of first place in the American League. Not just the division, the American League, which is amazing. Boy, I'll tell you, the crowds are turning out, and those drone shots over the Rogers Center, I think I mentioned this yesterday, just beautiful, just beautiful. People are showing up. It shows you, if you got a winner, people are going to show up at the ballpark, even with some of the crazy prices for things like food and beer at a ball game nowadays. But yeah, great to see the course they're playing again tonight, and the Blue Jays are going to be playing the Tigers next. So this is where Southwestern Ontario things get heated, because once you get a little bit past London, you start to run into Tiger country. And there's actually a lot of season ticket holders of Tigers that are living in the deep south of southwestern Ontario. They'll make the drive across the Ambassador Bridge to go to Tiger games. So I got a few people that we have regularly on the program here that I'm thinking of that are very, very much Tiger fans. Like, Brendan Burney is an example. He's a farmer from down those parts, like the Steve Denises of the world, the Doug Aldermans of the world. There's lots of longtime listeners of the show here. I know they're in Ontario. They're not Blue Jay fans. We got to question their allegiances here for sure. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, the Honorable Heath MacDonald, will be with us right after this quick break. We're joined here by Ron Kluskins. He's AGI's dryer business development rep. At what point does it make sense for me to have my own dryer?
It's a pretty simple answer is most guys can benefit from a dryer because they put their future and their own economics in their own hands. Even a small operator with a couple hundred acres can benefit from an in-bin storage dryer. Yeah. And when guys get to 300 or 400 acres, going to a continuous flow dryer, the economics is very good. They essentially dry for half of what an elevator would charge them.
Is it like a case of matching combine capacity, storage capacity, like before you decide on which dryer to purchase, or how does that work?
In a lot of cases, producers already have some storage bins on the farm, so it's just trying to incorporate a dryer to match the size of your operation, match your combine capacity, and then having some good assistance and good information from dealers.
Make sure you go to aggrowth.com to find out more.
At Proven Seed, we know that farming in Western Canada doesn't just teach us, it shapes us. Here we face challenges with resilience, innovation, and grit born from decades of experience. We battle the conditions again and again because growing crops here isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We're raised to adapt just like you, with varieties grown specifically for your local conditions. Visit provenseed.ca/raised to adapt to hear our story.
Lots happening on the ag political front, as last week we had a virtual FPT meeting and another one coming up in person in the beginning of September. Joining us to talk about that and a whole lot more, it is the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, the Honourable Heath MacDonald. Mr. MacDonald, it's great to chat with you.
Yeah, great to be here, Shaun.
Okay, so I guess let's start with last week and this virtual FPT meeting that was held. Of course, the in-person was canceled due to the wildfire situation in Manitoba. Do you feel that with the changes to 2025 and some of the discussions even going forward, were you satisfied with that meeting?
I was, and I think I'd rather an in-person meeting, obviously, but, it is what it is. But I was very satisfied with it, and I think we all left on a very positive note, and we're looking forward to getting together in September.
Those changes for 2025, is 2026 on the table as well for those changes, or are moving from 80 to 90 and the cap from 3 million to 6 million, are those a one-year thing, or is there a potential they roll over into future years?
Well, I think we'll, we just got that passed and got everybody to agree to that at our meeting. So I think, every year is going to be a little different, and we see what the circumstances play out. I mean, we're seeing all kinds of challenging issues, whether it be drought or wildfires or what have you. And the interior BC, I see they're facing major drought issues too and water issues. So I think each year we're going to have to take an evaluation and see where we go from there. There may be other issues that pop up that we may want to address too.
Yeah. Well, I guess give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here. Of course, you're the federal minister of agriculture, but this is an agreement working in collaboration and cooperation, cost share, an important part of that with the provincial ministers with the provinces. So what does that look like in the room? Is it a case of trying to find consensus amongst the group, or do some, I guess, pods of ministers hold more court, so to speak, in regards to based on the number of acres and their financial contribution? How does it work to try to get to these kind of agreements?
Well, everybody has their own issues, and I think the regional differences, I think all the ministers respect each other in that regard. I think there's collaboration and cooperation. And it depends what we're talking about, what the issue of the day is, I think. But you know what? They're all integrated, and they all just want their industries and sectors in their home province to be successful. And yes, I think there's obviously they have to go back and look at their budgets as well when we make these types of decisions. So I think that's important for me to recognize, and other ministers around the table to recognize that not everybody's in the same financial position. So they need, and timing plays a key part of that as well. So I think that's extremely important. But you know what, the cooperation from that meeting was, I thought, really good. It was my first one, obviously, but I don't have much to measure on, but if they're all like that, Shaun, I'd be pretty happy. Okay,
well, let's talk about the next one then. It's coming up. It'll be in person, as you mentioned. It is a better situation when any sort of meeting like this is in person. What are your goals that you're looking to achieve at the early September FPT meeting?
Well, I think it's building on the strength of the last meeting. I think we want to keep the lines of communication open. I think we want to talk about diversification, the economic value to the agriculture sector. I spent the last couple of days in Toronto meeting with, I think it was 8 different companies from I'm going to say North America, because there was 1 or 2 that were from the United States, and looking for investments and additional investments into the agriculture sector through venture capital, through, could be equity, could be anything. And it was really likely a first time that they've ever been approached in this way. I feel it's important. It's part of a play that I think is extremely beneficial to the agriculture sectors across this country, to ensure that we're doing everything as a government to lead the way a little bit. And then, as I say, get out of the way at some point. So I think, those types of things I think we need to keep building on. And it's something that I will pursue for sure, and have already started.
At a time where you're talking to companies about, trying to get more investment into Canada, one of the things that makes Canada appealing from an investment standpoint from outside capital is the access to the United States. I would imagine that some of the trade issues as we approach this August 1st deadline between Canada and the U.S., and also a USMCA CUSMA renegotiation potentially next year, that had to be something that came up as a concern, or maybe a bit of a barrier for immediate capital investment?
You know what? The conversations went really well, and I was a little intrigued. I wasn't sure what to expect bringing these people together. I must say that kudos to several of them. They flew in for that meeting specifically into Toronto. So, that's part of the discussion. But these are capital investors, and they have money to spend. They want to seek out some good possibilities, and they're keen. And it was really it felt good when we left the room. It was more than what I expected. I expected a lot of possible issues relevant to some barriers and impediments. There weren't really that many, so I felt I was more than pleased, and then we're going to stay in contact. FCC's playing a significant role now in agriculture with what they're doing and the new fund that they have, the $2 billion. Yep. So you know what? There's opportunities there, Shaun, and we just need to pursue them. We need to engage these types of companies. We need to stay in contact with them and communicate with them. We need to do a better job of telling, I'll say, the world of investment how beneficial agriculture, agri-tech is right now. And I think we have a massive opportunity. I really do.
I was just going to ask you, what kind of industries or what kind of companies are we trying to attract? And you mentioned ag tech there. There's also, of course, downstream, like processing and value added, things like that. I'm assuming that was included in that group. What other kind of industries have you been talking to?
Well, I'll give you an example of, you mentioned processing. So prior to this meeting, we visited a lettuce processing plant just an hour outside of Toronto. And it's one of a kind here in Canada to some extent, the innovation technology. They're producing on 5 acres greenhouse. They're producing heads of lettuce between 13 and 25 days, 365 days a year. They've already maximized their market right now. Now they're looking for another 5 acres. It's a large investment, but the technology and innovation in this plant is unreal. And, those are the types of things that if we can connect them with some capital investment for the next phase of this project, then that's the type of stuff that we need to do. And it's out there. We just have to exploit, I think, the positivity outcomes of agriculture and ag tech in Canada, because I really think there's a massive opportunity, as I said before.
You received a part of a letter from a number of different commodity groups, ag associations, industry stakeholders, the Let's Grow Canada campaign, I should say. What's your reaction to the suggestion that agriculture needs to be more of a top priority for the government?
That's perfect. As a minister sitting here responsible for agriculture, uh, they're doing exactly what they should be doing, and I am my priorities aligns very well with that letter. And no, I welcome that letter, and kudos to all those sectors that applied it. And I think that that's what we need. We need advocacy on my behalf, on their behalf. I think we all need to come together. The more we do this, Shaun, the more recognition agriculture is going to get across this country. And, we're not fighting with one another. We're not, going in different directions. We're rowing in the same direction, and we're making agriculture more visible, more attention put on it at every level. And I think it's extremely important.
You've been doing the tour. You've been traveling across the country, meeting with stakeholders. The listening. I call this like kind of the initial 100-day listening tour. We're through most of that, I'm assuming, here as we're through the mid part of July and through the first 100 days. Are you formulating now what we need to do? Bringing all of that, assimilating all of that, synergizing all of it. Do you have a better understanding now of what needs to happen to move the industry forward so that it can accomplish some of those things those stakeholders said in that Let's Grow Canada initiative?
Yeah, I think so. It gives me a really good insight to the challenges that they're facing. And I always add the word opportunities because I think that's extremely important. And they tell me about different opportunities as well, whether it's market diversification, more technology, more investment, regulation impediments. There's all kinds of things, but I've been to Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, obviously Prince Edward Island, and we're heading to Indonesia the first of the week, which I think is an extremely important market right now for us and everything that's happening, and more opportunities there as well. So yeah, it's been a busy first 100 days, but I can tell you that I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think as a new minister, that's exactly what I have to do. And there's lots of challenges out there, but again, I'm going to use that word opportunities because I really think there is opportunities, and I think I need to take that to Ottawa, especially this fall when we sit back down at the cabinet table face to face.
The U.S. has been working on trade deal with Indonesia, and you're headed there next week. What's the purpose of the trip? Totally trade related?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think building that relationship and showing that we care. I mean, Canada has been first and foremost a great partner with Indonesia. We opened up an office in Manila. I would personally like to see us open up another satellite office, maybe somewhere else close into the Indo-Pacific area. But it's so that, building those relationships and showing a minister coming in from Canada, I hope, signifies that we care about them, and we're a partner that they can trust. Hopefully we'll get to number 2 trading partner with Indonesia in the near future.
Have you had a chance to, obviously one of the most important trading relationships is between Canada and the U.S., and I mentioned some of the immediate challenges and then going out 12 months. Have you been able to talk to Secretary Rollins yet?
No, I haven't. And it's something that we need to do, but we need the right time too. I mean, there's a lot going on. We had the G7. We wanted to wait. And then we received the letter on the 35%. So look, it's timing, and it needs to be addressed, obviously, but I think we need to be very strategic when we do this, and who we take with us, if there's anybody that we so desire to take, and in coordination with the PMO's office too, the Prime Minister, and make sure that we're all on the same page here. It's a very fragile time in the trade, so I don't want to disrupt any more than anyone else, but I want to make sure that I have all my ideas and strategies settled before I make that attempt.
Yeah, the Prime Minister and Ambassador Hillman have really taken the lead on those trade negotiations with the United States and their trading team. Have you been able to contribute in terms of what agriculture would seek in terms of improvement or defending the fortress, so to speak? Have you been involved in those discussions with the Prime Minister and Ambassador Hillman?
Yes, we're constantly involved in as far as conversations with the PMO office and the trade negotiators, their trade team through the PMO. So it's a constant. There's lots of balls in the air that they have to look after, obviously, but agriculture is certainly, we know the priority of it and we know what they're talking about. And, so hopefully we can get through this time and move on, because I think the opportunities for, Canadian agriculture is certainly changed over the past couple of years. And I think there's, if there's a silver lining in everything that's happening, it's, people coming together and working in, the same direction.
I know we're running out of time, Mr. MacDonald, but I just wanted to get in as well. I know the Prime Minister has instructed different departments to work on costs and try to reduce some of those costs. Where are you at in that process, and what are some of the timelines of that?
Well, we're certainly looking at everything. Looking at programs that maybe haven't been used. There's all kinds of it. Look, I've gone through this as a provincial minister, as a finance minister, so I'm fully well aware of everything that can transpire over transformation of government. I think we have to be fiscally responsible, but I also think that we want to ensure that our priorities in the agriculture sector are heard front and center, and understood that the important role that it plays in growing the economics of this country. So you don't want to cut off the hand that feeds you, per se. So I think we'll leave it at that. But yeah, certainly we're working our way through it.
Do those cost instructions need to be done before a potential fall budget?
I think the outline of them, Shaun, necessarily have to be done. I think there has to be a process in place and a target set, and that's what we're working through right now.
Okay, well, I had a great time with you in person at the Calgary Stampede. It was great to be able to chat with yourself and your wife. I quite enjoyed it. I guess the big question is, did you enjoy the Calgary Stampede?
You know what? I had a blast. The reception, as you know, were there. Look, people were welcoming with open arms, and I can't say enough. Look, Canadians are special people. We know that, so we just want to keep building on that and make sure we keep our lines of communication open for my department in Ottawa. And I appreciated meeting you as well, and enjoy the conversations always.
Great stuff. We've been chatting with the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, the Honourable Heath MacDonald, based out of PEI. Mr. MacDonald, thank you so much for joining us here today on RealAg Radio, and look forward to our next chat. And good luck next week in Indonesia.
Okay, thanks, Shaun. Take care.
We'll be right back on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, right after this.
It is time for today's product spotlight. I've got Philip Korzak, Director of Sales, Western Canada for Vaterstad. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. How is Vaterstad and your team navigating that landscape?
We've seen some pretty significant shifts in buying habits across the board, not just Vaterstad. We're trying to essentially control what we can and not necessarily spend too much time worrying about things that are outside of our control. Supply chain, we have the ability to engage with our suppliers to be making sure that we're getting consistent product, that the quality standards are still there. We're also engaging with additional suppliers so that if there are issues in the supply chain, that we're not just a single source for some of our components. Staying focused on our planning, having clear communication with not only our own internal staff, but out to our dealerships and our customers so that they understand where we are, what we're doing, and that we can continue to be a reliable partner to both our dealers and our customers. Stay tuned, and I think in 5 years or less, you'll see a lot of different things from us as well as from the industry in general.
At Alliance Seed, every seed starts the story of your success. With Alliance Seed varieties, you're not just planting seeds, you're planting the promise of a prosperous future. Our top-performing wheat, barley, oat, pea, and lentil varieties are tailored to meet the unique challenges of your farm, ensuring high yields, strong standability, and reliable disease resistance. Discover the Alliance difference at allianceseed.com or call 1-877-270-2890.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. And we're joined right now for a product spotlight for AgSmart. It is Tracy Gardner. Tracy, how are we doing?
Oh, we're so amazing. It is sunny outside, and all of our ag producers are thrilled.
Yeah, crops are looking a little better compared to like where we were a month ago. So anticipating a lot of excitement and some smiles on people's faces as they attend AgSmart next week in Olds. Looking forward to it. So from AgSmart's perspective, what makes a difference than some of the other trade shows and conferences and things that are going on out there?
Well, that's an excellent question, and one that we are super proud to answer. And it's because we're an educational show, and it's a hands-on opportunity for producers to be able to go out to the crop plots, watch demos, interact with the trade show exhibitors, and be one-on-one with some of our industry experts. So you can see technology in the field, and you can interact with those folks. It's very practical. It's an innovative solution for farmers to take a peek at some of the stuff that they've been reading about, or that some of their peers and industry folks have been chatting about. So very education focused. Lots of industry experts are going to be part of speaker sessions and panel sessions, and it's just going to be a really, really fun, interactive, and educational space.
What are some of the key highlights or new features that attendees that are going to be there next week can look forward to?
I think probably one of the best ways to talk about highlights is just to give a shout out to our demonstrations. And I think that anything that focuses on precision ag tools, robotics, and autonomous equipment really gets people excited, because it's new, it's cool, it's fun, and just exactly how do these new technology pieces have application on farm. So I think that's probably the number one highlight. Also, the educational workshops is another piece, and some great soil testing stuff. Really cool things about livestock grazing and using different companies to showcase some of their products. And farm profitability is also another piece. So there's an expanded exhibitor lineup that is also showcasing some really cool stuff. So check out the speaker sessions and panel sessions, because I think that a lot of producers will be encouraged by some of the discussion there. But I have to tell you, Shaun, one of the most exciting pieces in terms of highlights is James Lawrence is our keynote speaker to kick the AgSmart event off. He's the Iron Cowboy, and he's a hometown guy. His mom and dad currently live in Calgary, and Alberta was home for him for years. But his story about overcoming adversity and resilience and just sheer determination is really, really cool. So I'm really excited that we'll be able to hear his story, and he's going to do a little book signing afterwards. So great opportunity to interact with James Lawrence.
Oh, I love a good book. Nice stuff. I like that. Okay. So for the RealAg audience that's listening to this, is this event for all of them, or like who should be attending this thing?
That is also a wonderful question, because I think that AgSmart truly has a little bit of something for everybody. So if you're a young student and you're attending a post-secondary and you're interested to take a look at what agriculture does and what the possibilities are, this is a wonderful expo to come to. And if you are a third or fourth generation family farm and you've got the whole crew that wants to come in and spend a day together and learn, it's a great opportunity too. I always say my dad, who is 67 years old and has been employed in oil and gas and a full-time farmer as well, is a great target audience, because there is really something for everybody. Whether you're a farmer, an agronomist, a researcher, an ag service provider, there's lots of things to be able to engage with. The trade show itself has some really fantastic opportunity to chat with the trade show vendors and just to build some relationships and get some ideas about some different on-farm practices that may be really relevant. So it's also a fantastic networking opportunity. So to answer your question, everybody can come.
I like it. Well, everybody, if you are interested and you want to be in Olds July 29th through the 31st, go to agsmartolds.ca to find out more. Tracy, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
We'll be right back on RealAg Radio right after this. It's now time for a product spotlight with FP Genetics. Sales Manager Chad Yachinsky. What agronomic support and solutions can FP Genetics offer growers who are considering hybrid fall rye today?
We've got a very experienced team, got over a decade of experience in working with rye in general. Very well-established team that can talk about rye front to back. Calling the territory managers, we got one in every province. We just actually hired 2 brand new product specialists. We'll have a Western and Eastern product specialist that's really tailored towards working with that grower, that retail, the independent agronomist, and providing that next level support that sometimes I think we're missing in the cereal world. Just working with growers to understand the agronomics of it. I know there's a lot of new growers to rye, so it's just how can we continue to educate them. We came up with a production manual last year. Pretty much answers 95% of the questions that have come our way on rye. So anybody that's even considering it, reach out to us. We can get you a physical copy, a digital copy of that production manual. fpgenetics.ca, hybridrye.ca, which is strictly hybrid fall rye, or reach out to all the territory managers and our information's on there.
I'm sure a lot of you have read the book, The Art of the Deal, which was written by the U.S. President, Donald Trump. And it's deals week, apparently, as we approach that August 1st deadline and that extension of those reciprocal tariffs from Tariff Liberation Day, as the president called it. Joining us to break it all down and what do we know, especially into that deal between the U.S. and Japan, it is D.C. policy analyst Jim Wiesemeyer. Hey, Jim, how are we doing?
Pretty good. I think we did see big news overnight because the Trump's Asia tariff deals, but especially Japan, it signals a new trade order, Shaun, and especially with Japan because they're very pleased with the way Japan got aggressive, and they suggested to Trump and his people, I guess a month ago, for investment clauses in this, and that apparently won Trump over big time.
Yeah, that's the $550 billion that's been described as like a, they're the underwriter, it's a loan or it's an equity invest. There's a different parameters to it and details are going to come out, and 90% of the profits stay in the U.S. So the president decides essentially where that money will be invested. It's very interesting and maybe unprecedented. Have you heard about something like this before?
Well, especially because this is in addition. Our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this is in addition to their investments now. So that remains to be seen. But also a key phrase, it's up to $550 billion. So then that tells you, well, you have to watch this thing. But the White House has already targeted certain sectors for that: semiconductors, microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, steel and shipbuilding, and critical minerals and automotive industries. In other words, build more plants in the United States to build Japanese cars.
Secretary Rollins said that this is the biggest trade deal ever. What's the ag angle on this? Is it rice? I haven't seen much about beef, but rice definitely is getting some attention.
It's 75% more rice from the United States than they currently purchase. Now, they're not changing the tariffs. They have a 770,000, I believe, yes, tariff-free quota. Now, the U.S. last fiscal year got 45% of the total. Now, if reports are correct that Japan said they'll buy 75% more rice from the U.S., that equates to 78.75% of the tariff-free quota, or a little over 606,000 tons. Bottom line, at least on paper, it's a win for U.S. rice.
Any mention of other commodities, Jim, at this point? We're
not at this. That has to be fleshed out. That has to be fleshed out. They just said they'll make $8 billion in purchases of U.S. agriculture and other products. Yeah. So we've had no fact sheet on Japan. That's what I would watch out for in the next week or so. Now, Trump and or his top officials are going to be meeting with Japan again to work out further details. So I think we'll see some more meat on this framework agreement relatively soon.
What about Indonesia? What do we sign? Is there something? Is there not something?
There's something. Yeah, they had a joint. White House put out a joint Indonesia White House agreement. Plus, you always look for those fact sheets, at least in the U.S.
Yep.
they put also out a fact sheet on Indonesia, and again. Indonesia, these things overnight, there was win-wins for both. Japan got what they wanted. Indonesia got what they wanted. They wanted no labor law changes, and they didn't. That no labor law changes are required. But again, we have to see in that fact sheet, it's going to be good for U.S. agriculture, some of these things. So I think that we're starting to see, Shaun, the trade war fog lift a bit. And I think you're seeing it definitely in Japan equities. I mean, the automobile stocks surged overnight. You've got the U.S. stock market's up a little bit, around 200 points. The S&P 500 is barely up. But now we're getting some certainty here. So now the key is now the other big kahunas would be Canada, Mexico, the EU. I think the EU is the big one that they really want to do. And Treasury Secretary Bessent said early this morning he was more upbeat regarding the EU than he had been previously. So that remains to be seen. But Canada, as you well know, that's a little it's a little dicey. It's a little dicey.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not as worried about the August 1st deal here. Because I don't think the administration in the U.S. wants to leave this as is, where it's actually more expensive for GM to import a car from Canada or Mexico into the U.S. That's more expensive than importing cars from Japan. That doesn't make sense, really, I think, to a lot of people. They don't want that. I'm a little bit more worried a year from now. That's where I'm a little bit more worried. And when we have this Kuzma USMCA potential renegotiation, that's where I think there's a lot of rubber to hit the road, and there's going to be some debris.
Well, what I hear that they're wanting from Canada is that Canada should focus more on targeted concessions on Chinese trade and customs. I don't think they're talking about as much China in Canada as the U.S. wants. At least that's what I'm hearing. And Canada also should secure as many product and sector-specific tariff exemptions as possible to help them out, rather than aiming what they want for a complete tariff removal. So I think we're seeing, if they continue to talk, and they are almost every day, as you well know. So I think eventually, yes, an agreement will be worked out with Canada. I totally agree with you. Trump is targeting that 2026 renegotiation of the what we call the USMCA.
Yeah. So, right now, USMCA compliant goods face zero tariff. Okay. But that will that'll form the base of a lot of the discussions a year from now, I think. And agriculture on both sides of the 49th parallel, especially in the beef and pork and lots of other integrated sectors, are going to have a real fit, and not a good one, if there is something like a 15% or 10% tariff across the board. We're going to hear a lot from farm groups.
This is why I mentioned I think both countries should strive for sector-specific exemptions rather than an across-the-board goal of 0%, really like what we have in USMCA.
Yeah.
And at least that's the parameters I hear right now. But Trump, I'll tell you what I think the market fails to understand initially. Trump likes these tariffs, at least at 10%, and now it looks like 15%. For many countries, for the tariff money it's bringing in, no matter who on the discussion, who's really paying for that. It gives him billions of dollars to work with, Shaun, in many different ways. And by the way, U.S. agriculture gets 35% of that tariff revenue.
Yeah, you and I have been working out the math going back and forth via text, but one of the outcomes floated, this is going back to even in the campaign last fall, is to remove federal income tax. Well, at a 15% across the board non-USMCA blanket tariff, you could have no federal income taxes for everybody making under $80,000 in the U.S. But the other one that came up this week on primary residences, maybe we should get rid of the capital gains tax. Now, that's a much more affordable exemption.
Yeah, and Trump has floated that overnight, by the way. And I think they're gearing up, by the way, for the next reconciliation bill in Congress this fall. I think we're going to see another one or two the next year and a half. And to get buy-in for that, you have to get into some further tax cuts, and that's why this small gains on home sales will come into play and get more than a few votes on the Republican side.
On the Canada-U.S. front, Jim, there's a lot of people running around inside Canada talking about how Trump wants to get rid of supply management. I have been saying I don't think so. If you actually listen to dairy groups, they're not saying that. And if you look at the UK trade deal and the Japan one, agriculture, those countries have been able to hold the fortress on ag. We've seen incremental changes. So, like, hey, positive change. It's all about, incremental changes and it's a step forward. That was the case on beef into the UK. It kind of looks that way a little bit on rice into Japan. That kind of fits very much into this dairy discussion between Canada and the U.S., where it's really about the change in the definition of the allocation of the TRQs, not necessarily bringing down the whole system.
I agree totally. Yes. Again, Trump's and his top people, Besson and Lutnick, they really want to get into areas basically outside ag, and it's in that investment area.
Yeah.
It's in automobiles with Canada. It's with that border control, fentanyl, the issues. And I think eventually there's going to be the right language at the right time. And we do have time for it, as you said. But on dairy, I think that there's an understanding, at least here, that your supply management for dairy and poultry is basically considered very touchy and non-negotiable by both the government and others.
No different than Japan is with rice, or UK is with certain restrictions, unscientific restrictions, but restrictions on things like beef. So
and see, Trump will use that as leverage. He'll say, "Okay, we'll give you that." Yeah. Now, what are you going to give us? Again, the win-win. I'm seeing win-wins in the Japan one, and I'm seeing win-win across the board for some of these other ones. The big surprise, and I think you will agree with this, Shaun, because we talked about it before, if they ever have an agreement with India.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to see it, because they'll usually, much like in their farmer WTO negotiations and the GATT round, India was always the hardest, if not impossible, to get on board. And I learned that many years ago. And I want to see if, even with a tiered approach, a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, if you get any phase with India, it's a success. But Europe and Canada and Mexico are the holy grail right now. And Trump wants those by fall. I would say by fall this year.
Yeah.
By fall this year.
And the key pillars of these deals have been, this is my perception, planes, autos, and energy. Those are really those are the ones where we're seeing definitely movement and getting a lot of focus.
Yes, investment in those industries. Absolutely. And that's Trump 101. He wants to build. He wants to invest, and he wants the private industry involved in this. And that's why they're emphasizing what they are.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, before we wrap up, what else is going on in DC that's keeping you you're paying attention to as we head into the dog days of summer here?
Well, we've got a Prop 12. That's the angle with California and other states, kind of putting an albatross on pork buys. They're having a hearing in the House Ag Committee today. That's still going to be a hurdle to get in, even with the farm bill. We're going to have another farm bill that they call the so-called skinny farm bill by the end of September, I think. If not, we'll have an extension. So we're watching that. The House is already, they're leaving this afternoon, Wednesday, the House of Representatives. because they want to get out of town rather than tying into all this Epstein stuff that you've no doubt been hearing about. But no, now we're going on budgets. It's all budgets all the time now, and lawmakers are once again way behind the funding curve. So now the story when they come back in September will be, will there be a shutdown of the government? So here we go all over again on that.
Yeah.
But other than that, what we're watching is some problems with the corn and soybean crop, but not many. We're looking at a potentially huge crop situation, which makes trade policy so important because that'll help get rid of the stuff, as we say.
Yeah, we're a lot of concern about this. These intense heat domes that's right over the Midwest right now. It's a scorching week on many parts of the corn acre in the U.S., but still, we're on the optimum yield curve still here.
Unbelievable. And watch your nighttime temperatures. Again, you learn many things when you're as old as I am. But for corn, those nighttime temperatures, even with hot daytime temperatures, are important because the corn crop needs to breathe. And if they can get it down there overnight, they can take the heat wave to a certain time frame.
Great stuff. Hey, Jim, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
That is Jim Wiesemeyer, DC policy analyst. Lots of stuff happening in DC here in the middle of July. Hey, let me tell you about CDC Envy CWRS. With impressive yields, early maturity, outstanding standability, and a robust disease package, with CDC Envy, your wheat crop will be the talk of the town. Learn more at allianceseed.com or call 877-279-2890. 877-279-2890. Back on RealAg Radio right after this. Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today.
Soil health is under pressure, but real solutions start below the surface. Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Formulated for performance, backed by consistency, trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mine to Market at blackearth.com.
There's a lot of focus right now in the world of AI. Every single product release we read about, we hear about, it's AI driven, right? Companies talking about how their entire company is AI driven. But at the end of the day, and this is a wide swath, but what does that actually really mean? Well, somebody that is very much in the space of artificial intelligence, specifically in the ag equipment sector across Canada and the United States, is Remi Schmaltz. He is the founder and CEO of Brilliant Harvest. Remi, it's great to chat with you.
Yeah, good morning, Shaun. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before we get into some talk about artificial intelligence and get a bit of an update there, Brilliant Harvest, for some of our audience that has not heard of it, not using it, what exactly is it? Because it's relatively new in the marketplace.
Yeah, so Brilliant Harvest has been around for 2 years now, coming up on August 1st, and we're an AI customer experience platform for equipment dealers and their customers. So we build out a dealer-branded solution that would be in, their app store. It's both web and mobile, allows them to process all of the information in their dealership. So things like manuals for a combine, as an example, their business system work orders, or conversational data from like a call center, so that the 30 to 50% of the questions that come from their customers to their dealership team are often easily answerable or repeat. And they're, hitting a person, and at peak times, it's hard to answer all those questions. And so this is about getting, faster answers back to those customers so they can get on with farming or whatever they're trying to do with their equipment.
Like, what would be an example of a question in those common questions that are, just throw one out there in terms of a practical example.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as, I'm looking for a part, for my piece of equipment. And today the parts person will often be looking in 6 different systems to find this part. And so, it's frustrating, right? And so if you're the customer, you're often experiencing either, even if you do get a hold of someone right away, you're experiencing the, hey, let me look it up and I'll get back to you situation, right? Which is frustrating for the customer and for the employee, right? They just want to answer the question and move on. So then now you have the employee who's out searching for stuff, and then they have to call them back. So it's like 15 to 30 minutes of wasted time. And the customer, in a lot of cases, like, how can't you know this?
Right.
You should just know this. But if you're a dealer, you're selling between 40 to 100 different brands. And so really tough to know everything about, every piece of equipment that you've ever sold.
Now, introducing Brilliant Harvest to us here, you mentioned, it's an AI tool. And I'm sure you see this. You've lived in the startup space for a lot of your career, being a true entrepreneur. This right now, that's one of the key words. There's like a overuse probably in some cases where AI, it's just a spreadsheet. I don't know if that's artificial intelligence. Right. Are you finding that there's a lot of people using that terminology, but maybe not delivering when you really look at the product?
Yeah, so I think definitely it's a very hot word to be using, and if you're not using AI, and this isn't just startups, right? This is big corporations, right? If they're not saying AI in their quarterly update in some way, they're kind of being frowned upon because they're not being progressive enough. So yeah, for sure, I think saying AI is easy to do and harder to really execute well and create value from. And this is even to the point, if you look big picture AI, all these AI companies that are, like ChatGPT, OpenAI, and Meta, they're not making money on AI today, right? These aren't profitable businesses. They're all going for the long-term value creation of what they're doing. So to actually create a profitable business that's scalable and makes sense is really hard to do. And AI is one tool in your toolbox, but you have to use it efficiently and make sure you have a clear use case and that you can implement it and actually create value from it.
Yeah, because the barriers to the customer are they're whether it's AI or it's other kind of technologies. It's about user interface, minimizing the complexity and obviously upfront cost, and at the end of the day, ROI. Right? Those are the critical things.
Yep. Yeah, and fitting into the workflow, right?
Yeah.
How do you do your job, or how do you interact? I mean, those things are really important that you understand and have deep domain knowledge around them.
So when you're going out and talking to different ag dealerships across North America about your offering, are those barriers the same for them as they are, say, with the farmer? Because you've taken technology to the farmer before, right? In some of your past companies, this is more you're in the B2B space, so to speak, and trying to be in the workflow. So what is it similar or different?
I'd say, the farmer certainly has a different workflow, and it's a very different sales process than selling to an equipment dealer, right? When you're selling on the farm, it's always tricky to know who's who, right? I've had large farms that are 20,000 acres, and you're talking to the guy who's the CEO of the company, and if he has that title or he's the guy in charge, you believe, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, this all sounds good. Let me talk to my mom. I'm going to see her at the retirement home, but she still signs the checks.
Yeah.
Right. So, there's kind of such a wide array on the farm that it's a lot harder to navigate, where when you're selling B2B in the equipment dealerships, it's quite clear, who the decision makers are, for the most part. Now, a little bit of discovery of, who's doing what sometimes, but, you got the CEO, the IT department, and, probably the service or the sales side, depending on what you're kind of doing.
Yeah. From an update on Brilliant Harvest standpoint, how has it been going after 2 years?
Things have been really good. We've been having a lot of fun as a team, and we've been, really blessed with having some amazing partners. We've got just about to sign our 6th customer now. Our customers represent over 200 dealership locations, do over 4 billion in annual sales, and have customers, representing over 60,000 farms. And so we're off to the races, and for us now, it's is really an execution piece of us, continuing to deliver on, what we partnered with these companies to do. So there's definitely a clear need. Dealerships are feeling the pain on just the talent side of finding good people, right? And good people isn't just an issue in this industry; it's in all industries. So good people will be sucked into any industry if you do your job well, right? So everyone's feeling the pain there. And I think everyone, sees as we continue to gain, some of the big name dealerships in North America as our clients, that's huge for our reputation and certainly gives us a lot of brand equity of what we're doing. And I've always been an under promise, over deliver kind of guy. And so, we're really picking and choosing at this stage of who we want to work with to make sure that, we're doing a great job and executing well.
A lot of debate out in the mainstream about, replacing jobs, right? And so, artificial intelligence, we're just kind of at the beginning of all of this. So we don't know what we don't know at this point, but a lot of people forecasting that, it's the white collar jobs that AI is really after at the end of the day. How do you see this? Because you're living in this space. You're talking to customers who are having trouble with the talent pool. They're obviously looking to backfill some of that workload onto AI, but it doesn't necessarily replace the need for people at the dealership.
No, so this is really about enhancing or making, enabling for teams at the dealership to do more. And frankly, probably put them in a better spot where they're not being burnt out. Those times during, planting and harvest, I mean, they're working long days, right? And burnout is a real thing. And so, someone's still going to have to twist a wrench or push a button or, there's those physical things. People still operate, farms in particular, but, they want trust, like I need to be able to connect with my person, but that I have trust and I rely on. And so there's still a very physical presence, that's needed. But ultimately, how can you be more efficient, right? Like when you get 100 questions a day from your customers during peak demand, if half of them are something that you've answered before, I mean, do you really need to re-answer them again by like having a long phone call or retyping a text message or whatever? Like we got to be more efficient with our people. And so I always think that, in a company, and especially larger businesses that have really big talent pools or teams, there's always churn, especially in the bottom half, right? So if you think sales teams, the bottom half of your sales team is going to churn no matter what, AI or not, like they're not going to survive, right? If they're not doing a good job, they're not going to be around. Same, if you have technicians that aren't doing a good job or being efficient or getting enough billable hours, they're not going to be around, right? So I don't think this is really about, replacing those jobs. A lot of those people would have churned anyways. And this is about a dealership being able to maintain their good people, have them be happier, more efficient, have their customers be more happy and efficient because they're not doing a lot of these repeat redundant tasks over and over and over again that frankly, a lot of people don't like doing.
So what's the trajectory? What does this look like 2 years from now?
So 2 years from now, like from AI in general, or what?
Yeah, even if you just look at using AI with a product like Brilliant Harvest, what does that? Yeah. Where does this grow to? What does this look like?
So I would say that we're integrated with all the different systems they have. So they have a call center, they have their business system, their CRM, they have some different other databases and systems that they use in their dealership. So we're interconnected to all of those, both receiving and sending data to them. And so we're basically providing a comprehensive one-stop shop for a new employee, as an example, that comes on board and instantly knows almost as much as the senior guy who's been there for 20 years, right? They can access the same information, and the thousands of questions and problems that senior person has solved can now be solved almost as quickly by, the junior person coming in, right? So you can get people up to speed way faster. Now you're not training your new people on customers, right, on the farm. They can help those customers quicker, and the farm can self-serve too on more, right? Now the dealership gets to manage how much of that information they share. But these things become like intertwined into your daily life, right? So multiple communication platforms, right? Text, email, phone call, in-app, I mean, all feeding into one system that allows you to manage that communication flow. And that might not even be 2 years from now, to be honest with you. I think we're going to get there probably faster than that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just continues to speed up and advance, and boy, this is sure. You just think about image creation from AI and how much better that is compared to just 3 months ago. It's insane. So who knows where, 5 years, it's hard to like that. That's where it's like, who knows it. That's like what we used to do with, what's it going to be like in 2050 with technology. And now we're talking about, that kind of rate of change and speed, something that's 5 years out. It's amazing.
Yeah. Exciting.
Well, hey, Remi, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really appreciate it, and all the best to you with your activities and opportunities with Brilliant Harvest. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Shaun.
As Remi Schmaltz, founder and CEO of Brilliant Harvest, appreciate him giving us a bit of an update on what they're doing, just some thoughts on AI in general. If you have any feedback on today's show, we covered a lot of ground. Jim Wiesemeyer, Minister MacDonald, we heard about AgSmart. Man, it's a great show today. Lots of fun. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or of course you can call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. And, of course, we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. And we are in the bonus here on the RealAg Radio Podcast. Appreciate everybody that listens every single day. And I'm always asking for feedback. Love it. Okay? And I don't care. Yesterday we had Damian Mason on, and I heard from some of the audience, some people really appreciating some of the discussion, some people taking issue with some of the thoughts or opinions that Damian had. And that's great. That's all a part of it. Like, I think a lot of times people are like, I didn't send you feedback because I didn't agree with you. Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Perfect. That's awesome. Why is that a barrier? Why is that a barrier? So keep it coming, keep it respectful, but keep those thoughts, comments, opinions, theories coming on any things that we chatted about. And I think it's very interesting from today's show. Jim and I talked about it during segment 4 today, in terms of like, okay, a bit of a trend developing here when it comes to these trade deals or trade arrangements or these frameworks for more negotiating that the U.S. is working on. Whether you look at Indonesia, Vietnam, the U.K., Japan, and I'll pick on the U.K. one and Japan specifically. I don't think, I really don't. If you apply a Mexico-Canada lens to those deals, the conversation in Canada going on here domestically, where people are kind of making the assumption that supply management is under threat, at least at this stage, I don't think the indications are that. UK was able to protect its agricultural industry, like beef. Japan was able to protect the rice market, but they made some concessions. And if you apply the dairy discussion to this, supply management's not going away. U.S. dairy groups have said since the very beginning, it's really about those definitions of those TRQs. It's how those TRQs are allocated that has us concerned and what our push is for change. Now, Canada, of course, has stuck to its, we think we're doing it properly and in the spirit of the agreement and how the text is written, and we've been through this a million times, okay? But I think this is the key. It's not about supply management. It's about those incremental changes that it applies to those TRQs, similar to what we saw in the rice situation with Japan. They didn't even increase the amount of rice they're going to be importing. It's that tariff-free quota is still 770,000 metric tons. They're just going to make U.S. purchases a bigger part of those imports. Going from 45% to not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Bit of a tell there. Something to watch out for as it applies to these Canada-U.S. and Mexico negotiations as well. Okay, what we're going to do here in the bonus today is I did an interview with Chris Perry, farmer from Southern Alberta. He's from Chin, okay, just outside of Coaldale, Alberta, which is just outside of Lethbridge. For all of you people that don't know Alberta geography very well. Okay, so great farmers. Chris and his brother Harold do just amazing. They are innovative. They are really who I consider to be just super smart in this. And they're not scared to try new things. They're always doing. But one thing that they have is not new is their relationship with Lay's and potato chips. And Lay's is launching a new campaign. And Chris Perry is one of the featured farmers in it. His family has been dealing with Lay's for decades. And we chatted with him about the campaign and potato production and just the overall business relationship. Here's that discussion.
Yeah, so fourth generation farm here in Chin, Alberta, Southern Alberta. And yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Love the area. We got a fifth generation on deck here. And yeah, it's been, I don't know, we run about 6,000 acres, 5,500 irrigated acres. Our focus is absolutely potatoes for customers like Lay's. And we do a bunch of other mixed crops and grains and stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think your operation is really known for being innovative and trying new things and running a very, very solid operation. So it's great to chat with you here today on Real Agriculture. So tell us a little bit here. So your family's been growing potatoes for Lay's for is it 40 years?
Yeah, 45 years. It's crazy to think about that. And it's been a great relationship throughout. Definitely one of our favorite customers and longtime customers. So it's been a good relationship. Dad started the Spuds back in '68, and we started the Spuds with Frito-Lay when they took over the Hostess plant in Tabor here back in early '80s.
Wow. Yeah, potato production is definitely an economic driver in Southern Alberta for sure. What was your initial reaction when you found out your family was going to be featured in this national Lay's campaign?
Well, it all happened pretty quick. So, I mean, we got a call and said, hey, let's take a look at, they're doing some filming and running the real food from real farms, which we just loved, and it always resonates. So it's nice to be a part of, promoting the product and tying that back to agriculture and what it actually is. And then when they said we were going to throw us down for a national kind of spot, we said, hey, that sounds pretty neat. Let's get the fifth generation involved, bring the kids home, and I'll be a part of it. So yeah, it was certainly a surprise and a full-on production, but it was neat to be a part of for sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking at right now at one of the ads. Betcha these Lay's chips are made in Canada. So the Betcha campaign, what are your thoughts on it in terms of and bringing that back to your farm? What were your thoughts when you first saw the graphics?
Well, it certainly resonated with our farm. We say "you betcha" a lot actually here. So, when we were walking around filming and the crew would ask us, well, what do you think about doing this and this? And we'd say, yeah, you betcha. And they'd, right, you're right in character. But yeah, it actually really resonated quite well, way back to the old Mark Messier days. And it was super fun to tie that into what we are doing here. And it was a fun play. They did a great job of pulling it all together and adding a lot of fun to it. So it was a neat experience, and you betcha resonated for sure.
Yeah, and potato production is one of those products that we produce in Canadian agriculture that is a little bit closer to the consumer, right? I can have that bag of Lay's potato chips and think potatoes and work that back to the farm, which is a little bit different than maybe I think it's some of the other commodities, like say a canola, for example. In terms of that connection with the consumer, I think it really has a benefit when we do connect, hey, that potato production, Chris Perry, Chin, Alberta, here's the farmer doing this for 40 years plus, and connect that to the bag of chips. I think that's a pretty great connection. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, Shaun. It really truly is. We know people for years. They drive by our place. We're located right on Highway 3 here, on the premier food corridor. We have these 3 igloos, and people don't really know what's ever in here. Oh my gosh, you grow potatoes. So, this is Southern Alberta. Never mind, Vancouver and Western Canada. I mean, if you're eating Lay's or Miss Vicky's Ruffles in Western Canada, you're, 20% of the time there are potatoes made right here. And, we got a farm that dedicates, and we're supporting 20 families. The factories in Tabor building the chips that supports how many families, the logistics, everything is really here and coming out. And it's a great locally made food that supports so much, and it's an enjoyable snack and fun. There's not many people we chat to that don't love love a Lay's potato chip. So it is great to be a part of, and to know, to have that outreach and just say, yeah, it is made right here. And it surprises us how few people know that. So it's nice to get out, I guess, every once in a while and tell the story, like so many great stories are around.
Do you have a favorite flavor of potato chip?
Oh, I do, for sure. I'm a sour cream and onion guy.
Oh, really?
Any day.
I'm a little bit more particular to the salt and vinegar.
Oh, that's fair. That's a close third, I'd say.
It's a close third. Well, what's number 2 then?
I got to just go with the Ruffles plain.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just the old straight up potatoes, oil and salt. So
yeah.
Love it.
For some of the listeners that aren't involved in potato production, maybe some consumers that just love a good solid bag of chips, what goes into the actual production of the potatoes? Are you producing specific varieties for potato chip market, or just talk about some of those ins and outs, special things that you do as the farmer in producing those potatoes?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, it is, we don't have any tours that come in and out of this place that people don't go, holy smokes, I didn't have any idea what was involved. So, it's a full-on production. We employ probably 15 to 30 people year round, and then we bring in 50 people at harvest time. If there's a whole seed production area, Frito-Lay starts with the seed. They produce varieties that are, good for the consumer, and heading towards good for the planet, and all kind of good stuff. So really to make a great Lay's product to put in the bag. So it starts at their R&D facility and comes up. We have seed growers in Northern Alberta producing some of the Frito-Lay varieties. They're specific Frito varieties, most of what we go for Lay's chips. So we get the seed. It's sort of on a 3 to 4 year program in Northern Alberta. They grow out the seed. We purchase commercial seed from them. We plant the potatoes. We do it in about mid-April. We plant, and then we give it a lot of loving from there. We prep the ground, we irrigate, we fertilize, we do all kind of stuff to keep them happy throughout the year. We start harvest. We'll actually be harvesting fresh crop. I think they've already started here for next year's crop. So we'll be starting the first week of August, I believe, on our farm. Then we fill all our storages back up. We have 7 storages on site here. So we fill those up in the month of September, and then we're basically carrying potatoes all year round. So it's an all year round thing. It's not, some of the grain farms where you're kind of harvesting, it sits in a bin and you on and off. Like we're hauling potatoes probably almost 2 out of 3 weeks of the year, on and off sporadically. So yeah, there's a heap that goes into it, a lot of love and care. And one thing is for certain, it's you got to love what you're doing to be in this business. There's a lot to it. So
yeah,
we have a wicked team, crew, and people around us to help get it done.
Well, and working that closely with a company like PepsiCo and Lay's for this long, do you have any advice? Because a lot of farmers, they grow a product and they ship it to like the highest buyer. You're a part of the value chain, like a part of a supply chain here, which takes a different kind of relationship management and business practices. Do you have any advice out there for other young farmers looking at this kind of, these kind of strong relationships with corporate partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting, right? Because it is a corporate business, but given that we've been in this relationship with Frito-Lay for 45 years, and it's one of our favorite relationships. I would say, yes, seek out those relationships where you can grow a trust and build something within the value chain, where find partners that do value what you do. And if you can find those that, you get some shared wins out of the growing whatever crop you're doing, that there's a long-term play in agriculture. It just is by nature. And so we absolutely appreciate the long-term nature of this. Hope it keeps going for another 45 years, frankly. We're proud of what we do to produce an awesome potato and put it in a Lay's chip bag. So go after those fun relationships and see what you do. We do well what we do well, which is growing the potato to give a quality spud to Frito-Lay. They do a great job of what they do, which is putting that quality chip in the bag and having the logistics and the team and the network and the marketing to put it across. And, it just takes good partners. So seek them out.
Yeah, well put. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining us here. Congratulations on your participation in this great campaign from Lay's, and all the best to you the rest of the 2025 growing season.
Right on there, Shaun. Thanks so much. And thanks for what you do, sharing all the egg stories. It's always great to hear your casts.
That's Chris Perry, farmer from Southern Alberta. He's a featured farmer in the You Betcha campaign with Lay's potato chips that you can check and see the video on YouTube. And I think we're going to be posting that interview on RealAgriculture.com and a link to the commercial. I think for farmers that are in a supply chain like that, like you may be looking at that and be like, wow, that's easy, right? You produce something, you've got a buyer, it's all set up, you don't got to work, it's probably de-risked to a certain extent. But there are challenges, and they're just different challenges. And I when I was farming, we were a part of some of the production systems like this that we're in potatoes, but we're in other crops, and it just presents different challenges and trying to meet specific quality specs. Also, remember, you're also a part of the supply chain internally as an outsourced toller. So there's certain production specs or methods of doing things that may be above and beyond what you maybe would have done otherwise because they have different internal hurdles or different expectations. It can be complicated, and the relationship can experience some frays. It's not all just rosy. And so the fact that the Perrys, as an example, have been doing this with Lay's and PepsiCo for like so many, multiple decades is really a testament to the work that they do. And congratulations to them for being featured in the campaign. I love these food companies, whether it's McDonald's or it's Lay's, where they feature the farmer. Because the reality is, here's the thing. And I said this at the ag reception at the Calgary Stampede. Agriculture cannot afford those marketing campaigns, right? If we wanted to have Chris Perry featured as a potato grower during, Blue Jays baseball right now, where everybody's watching, the whole nation is watching Blue Jays baseball right now. They're going to the game or they're watching on TV. Agriculture cannot afford that kind of advertising. You need the marketing muscle of a food company, whether it's McDonald's or it's Lay's, as two examples that, two companies that really, really try to do this. And so we need to embrace it. We need to celebrate it and use this as a gateway to connect with the consumer. And I think I'm right. Salt and vinegar chips are the best flavor. Maybe all dressed. All dressed is right up there as well. Dill pickle, maybe a third. I don't know. You can give me your opinions on that. Hey, if you have any feedback, send me that email, shaney@realagriculture.com. And looking forward to tomorrow's show with the Farmer Rapid Fire. We got 5 farmers tomorrow, 4 from Canada, 1 from Colorado. And so we'll hone in on how people are making on their fields and see how those conditions are as the summer here progresses. So thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected. Thanks for downloading the Real Ag Radio Podcast. And we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers.